Thank you for that kind of introduction. It's really an honor and privilege to be here and talk about something that is very important to all of us. I remember going to UBC, and I think it was a psychology of aging class I was taking in my undergraduate degree. And I remember they talked about these biomedical principles that I'm sure everyone here knows about, but I'll remind you about them. They were written in 1979 by Beauchamp and Childress, and you probably know them off by heart. Autonomy, which is the right to self-determination. The second is non-maleficence, which is not to do harm to people. Then the third is beneficence, to do good. And of course, the fourth, which everyone knows, is justice, both procedural and distributive. And from that ethos, I guess you could probably track it back to Plato and Hippocrates, which is what we would talk about when I was teaching gerontology at SFU. We did a whole course on this, a whole lecture on this stuff, a whole evening on it. But then fast forward, I guess, from 1979 when they published that first to 1987, which the Nursing Home Reform Act was proclaimed in the United States, which I believe certainly south of the border, they think it's the first legislative package to be proclaimed protecting the rights of people living in care homes. And that was at a time when many of us will remember that restraints weren't just chemical restraints. They were physical restraints, where nursing homes really weren't doing the kind of job that we all imagine seniors deserved. So one of the pieces of that legislation, the Nursing Reform Act of 1987, was something called the Patient Self-Determination Act. And when I read about that, I thought, wow, there's my thesis for my graduate thesis was on, I did studies on aging, and I looked at the intersection of the Nursing Reform Act and the Patient Self-Determination Act. And what I was really curious about was one piece that hadn't been researched at all, which is what Nidus does. My thesis, believe it or not, I just made the connection of this earlier today. My thesis was on how we educate the public around their rights to complete a living will, which in BC, it's slightly different, we call them representation agreements. And why is this important? Because when we think about the demographics, when we look at the fact that 1 in 5 people in our province is over the age of 65, so that's 20%. Fast forward a decade from now, it'll be 1 in 4, 25%. 400,000 more people. And what happens as you grow older? Many people think that dementia is part of normal aging. Well, as my friends from the Alzheimer's Society will tell you and remind you that only 5% of people over 65 have dementia. And dementia is not a normal part of aging. Short-term memory loss may be more frequent, but that happens before you turn 65. Where I'm going with telling you all about this is that it's critically important that people are aware of their ability to extend their autonomy beyond decisional capacity. When you don't have decisional capacity, whatever that decision that you are no longer able to make, that you have expressed who you want to make decisions for you and what decisions you want them to make, what values are near and dear to you. And I think we're lucky to live in a province that has that legislation. And I was very pleased when I came back after studying abroad in the States and doing my internship and fellowship in Ontario, to come here and to know that this was being implemented in the province. And I got to work with Colin and Christine and some others, probably some others in this room, around implementing this in long-term care. And we really wanted to see not just the healthcare piece being put in for the adult guardianship package, but also the care facility admission piece, which we thought was critically important. So a little bit about the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. When you think about those rights, and I think many of you in this room know very well about this yourself, a personal experience. We have a daughter who's almost 23. She's fantastic, and she does have a disability. And she was here tonight. You might notice she looks a little different. I think she looks normal. She's exactly the way she's supposed to look. But we've had experiences in the system, whether it's education, whether it's medical, where she didn't quite get the support we thought she should get. So the advocacy, the education is so, so, so important. And back to the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. There isn't a convention currently for the rights of older people. They're having conversations about it in Geneva. They're going to be writing something, but it's not in place yet. So my really question for you to think about is, if the rights of people with disabilities, and as was mentioned, if 40% of people over 65 have a disability, and we're on our way to have that, if you don't have those rights as a senior, did you ever have those rights? So you think about the rights. So one of the rights would be the right to healthcare. Think about, are we able at a certain age to get the healthcare services we need? Think about this. Think about the fact that right now, if you're waiting for a hip replacement surgery in our province, you're going to be waiting. The wait lists have gone up, length of time, by over 70%. Knees, over 60%. Abdominal hernia replacement surgery and prostate surgery also have gone in the wrong direction. So think about access to that. Think about the fact that 20,000 seniors were in alternate level of care beds last year, and 20,000, 6,000 approximately were waiting for admission to a care home, and they would have moved in faster. The past year, it was 5 days longer than the previous year because we haven't invested enough in seniors. So not only we can think about the rights to healthcare, but how about the rights to long-term care? And if you look around the province, we know we've repaced some projects. Those have to be built. We need currently 2,000 beds. We're short. In 5 years, it'll be 7,000 beds. In 10 years, it'll be 16,000 beds. 7,000 people are right now waiting on the wait list. They're waiting 10 months instead of 5 months. So when you start thinking about rights, think about access to healthcare, access to long-term care, and then you think about also access to end-of-life care, to palliative care. Are we all getting access to palliative care in the same way? We have a lot of work. I'm seeing some heads shake in agreement. We have a lot of work to do to continue to make sure that the rights for people with disabilities are extended to elderhood. That just by the fact that of the birth year you are in shouldn't discriminate you against access to the services, and to ensure that especially people as they get older, when the assumption's made that they don't have capacity to make decisions, that they are granted the agency that they have the right to have. And I know our office, my predecessor, Isabel McKenzie, really pushed hard to make sure that the voice of people in care homes was heard by doing a survey and asking people with advanced dementia about their experience living in a care home, which really showed that they have agency, they have rights. So when I'm at the pharmacist not that long ago, down in Vancouver, I won't say the exact pharmacist, I went in there getting my COVID shot a number of years ago, and I was waiting because they make you wait for 10 minutes, and the pharmacist there's an elderly person coming in with his daughter, and the pharmacist speaks to the daughter. Where's the agency there? So, and I asked them, before I had this role, I asked them, what's happening here? And they both recognized, as did the gentleman. He says the father, I think he was in his 90s, he said, yeah, they're talking around me. So there is this embedded ageism that I think we have to combat. We did a survey last year, we published it, and 9,000 people responded. 84% said ageism is an issue. Of the 9,000 that responded, 54% said they've experienced it. And it could be subtle, could be in a retail store where you're ignored if you're in the wrong demographic, but it could be access to healthcare. It could be the fact that at 75 years of age, women no longer get reminders to get mammographies. Or could have even been earlier where you don't get access to hormone replacement therapy. We have to make sure that the rights of seniors, whether they're a UN convention or not, are protected, and that people with disabilities also have those protections going forward. So I want to just make sure I applaud the work that you're doing. I'm here to congratulate you, to congratulate everyone here for everything that you've done to get to this point. It is wonderful that we live in a time, and we have lots of work to do still, when we are educating people about their rights, educating them about representation agreements, and making sure that people have the ability to appoint someone and to make sure that their decisions are made to the best of their interests. So I'm applauding you, and I'm really honored to be here to say a few words.